Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 11 on Weimar and the Nazi Party. Now, the first 10 videos were looking at Weimar Republic. That was section 1. Section 2 is going to start with this video. And section 2 is concentrating on Hitler's rise to power, 1919, right the way through to 1933, when he becomes leader of Germany. So the next series of videos, that's what we're going to be concentrating on, Hitler's rise to power. But ladies and gentlemen, it's important to realise in section 2, when we're looking at the rise of Hitler and the growth of the Nazi Party, you must remember that these events, Hitler's rise to power, was happening at exactly the same time as all the events that we've looked at in section 1. For example, Treaty of Versailles, the stab in the back, hyperinflation, the Spartacist uprising, the Kapp Putsch, Gustav Stresemann and recovery. All that was going on when Hitler was trying to grow and develop the Nazi Party. So it's important that you can link them together. And that's hopefully what you'll be able to do after we've gone through section 2. But the key questions for us in this section are these. How and why did Adolf Hitler come to power and become the leader of Germany? So, hopefully, the next series of videos will explain the answers to those questions. Now let's start with Hitler himself. His early life. It may surprise some of you to learn that Hitler was not German. He was Austrian, born in Austria. Austria and Germany had always been quite closely linked. As a child, he wasn't very good at school. Not like you, watching these videos and becoming better at history. Well done. He wasn't very good at school. He wasn't bad at art, to be fair. He had some talent in the area of art. 13, his father died. By 18, his mother had died. So he was alone. He applied for art school in Vienna, but he was rejected. His art wasn't that good. The art school in Vienna was one of the top art schools in the world. He was rejected. And for a time, his life was not very good. He was almost like a down and out person. He was almost like a homeless person, living on the streets almost. At this time, some people have suggested he develops his hatred for Jewish people, because in Vienna at that time, some of the rich people there were Jews, and he himself wasn't rich, and he looked at them and thought, why should they have all the money? So that's something to think about for later in the course, when we do about his treatment of the Jews. Eventually, he leaves Austria and he moves to Germany, Munich, 1913, just before World War I. When World War I is declared, there is a famous photograph of a huge crowd on the streets, and someone has spotted Hitler right in the middle of the crowd, and he is happy. And he joins the German army. And he fought all the way through World War I. He was a messenger, which was quite a dangerous job because he'd have to carry messages through the trenches. He was quite a brave soldier from what we can gather. He fought at the Battle of the Somme, carrying the messages. And during World War I, he was actually awarded the Iron Cross. So his bravery was there for all to see in World War I. In fact, very, very good book, Hitler's First War, all about what he actually got up to in World War I. And there he is. You might just be able to see the trademark moustache of Hitler, just as a normal soldier in the First World War. Hitler's First War. Now, put my pickle house on, World War I. Now, towards the end of World War I, Hitler, the area of the trench where he was gassed, and Hitler was temporarily blinded. He was forced to hospital. And actually, he was in hospital when he heard the news that Germany had surrendered and Germany had ended the war. He was furious. He was also ashamed. He felt humiliated. There's a very famous passage in his own book, Mein Kampf, where he describes the fact that he burst into tears. At the end of World War I, there is Hitler, blubbering, crying, in hospital, blinded. How did we get from him, just as one normal soldier, crying at the end of World War I in 1918? 15 short years later, he became the leader of Germany. How did that happen? Why did it happen? That's hopefully what I will show you over the next few videos. So, eventually, after a short time, Hitler regains his sight and he returns to Germany. He's just one of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of returning German soldiers. Now, as you know, from our work in section 1, the Germany that these soldiers were returning to was not exactly a thriving place. Germany was struggling. What did Hitler do? Any ideas? Well, obviously he needed a job. What did he do? He actually stayed in the army. Get rid of that. He stayed in the army and he worked for their intelligence department. And his job was to go and monitor the many, many new political groups that were springing up and starting all over Germany. It was a very volatile time. And the army said, we need to look into these groups and see what they are saying. Are they a threat? Are they a danger? So that was Hitler's job. And as part of his job, in 1919, he investigated the German Workers' Party, Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, DAP, the German Workers' Party. Now, it was a nationalist party, a right-wing party, talking about Germany being great. At first, it was very, very small. At the first meeting, there were about 20 people there. They had about 23 members, led by a man called Anton Drexler. Well, the 19th of September, 1919, Adolf Hitler joined the DAP, joined the German Workers' Party. And he started speaking at their meetings. And he found, and others found, that Hitler was a good speaker. He was good at public speaking. And very quickly, in the DAP, he was put in charge of recruitment and propaganda. Now, 1920. So, just a year or so after World War I, the German Workers' Party, DAP, became the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP. And the shortened form of National Socialist, you've got it, was Nazi. So 1920, we get the National Socialist German Workers' Party, known as the Nazi Party. So that's when it was set up. February 1920, Drexler, the leader, and Hitler, the new man in charge of recruitment and propaganda, they wrote the party's policies. They were called the 25-point programme. Now, what was in it? What sort of policies was Hitler putting forward early on in 1920? Well, stuff that he carried on for most of his life. Number one, scrap the Treaty of Versailles. He was totally against it and he wanted it scrapped. Number two, no Jew could become a citizen. There it is, right at the start. Hitler's hatred of the Jews. Number three, all German people should be united. That included people who had been taken out of Germany by the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Pensions, education was important for the National Socialists. but only for Germans. They said we need a strong government, and they said that newspaper editors would have to be German. There's just some of the policies in the 25-point programme. July 1921. Hitler became leader of the party. He's taken control, he's taken leadership of the Nazi Party, 1921. And he begins to use the word Führer, meaning absolute power as leader. Now, how did he become the leader? Remember I said a few minutes ago, he was a very, very effective public speaker, much better than Drexler. So all the members say, look, we need him. Why was Hitler such a good public speaker? Well, ladies and gentlemen, he followed 3 simple stages. I'm going to give you an example now. Stage number 1. This is what he did when he began speaking. Are you ready? Stage number 1. He waited for silence. It's quite effective. Stage number 2. Once he got the silence and he got people's attention, then he would start speaking. Stage 2. In a very, very low and quiet voice. Because then people have to listen really carefully to what's actually being said. So he's gaining their attention even more. Stage 2. And then he moved to stage 3. Once he's got everybody's undivided attention, then he gives his message. Boom! He shouts it out. He's drawn them in. And then he puts his message out. And it was very, very effective. If you go and look on the internet and see some of Hitler's speeches, you will see him using these methods, using these techniques. Silence, very quiet speech, very loud speech. And that's one of the reasons why he became leader of the Nazi Party. From November 1919 to November 1920, the Nazi Party had 46 meetings. And of those meetings, at 31, Hitler was the main speaker. He's showing that he's becoming the leader. And as leader, some of the things he introduces: the swastika that people wore later, the straight arm salute, the Sieg Heil that became part of the Nazi Party, the salute. Remember I said he's in charge of recruitment. Well, how was that going? Well, here's a couple of things for you. 1920, party membership, 1,000. 1922, party membership, 6,000. 1923, party membership, 50,000. Can you see what's happening here? Link it to section 1, hyperinflation. So as things began to go badly in Germany, some people looked to people like Hitler for the answers, and party membership begins to increase. The party members all pay a membership fee, so the party, the Nazi Party, has more money. Hitler uses the money to get a newspaper, the People's Observer it was called, in German, the Volkischer Beobachter. And he's able to put out his messages to quite a lot of people. By 1921, it's got a circulation of 17,000. People are beginning to see and hear Hitler and the Nazis' message. And what's that message? Germany's in a bad way. Let's blame the Jews. Let's blame the Weimar Republic, the Weimar politicians. Let's blame them for stabbing us in the back. Let's blame them for signing the Treaty of Versailles. Blame. The other side of that is saying, vote for us and we ensure German purity. None of this foreigners, Jews, it's Germans. It's a very nationalist message. And this is going out there at a time, ladies and gentlemen, when there was unrest in Germany, Spartacist uprising, the cap putsch, hyperinflation. There is violence on the streets. August 1921, the SA is set up, the Sturmabteilung, stormtroopers, and they wore brown uniforms, so they're sometimes referred to as the brown shirts, led by a man called Ernst Röhm, R-O-H-M. We'll mention him later. And these became the bully boys for the Nazi Party, the protection for the Nazi Party. Not only would they protect Nazi politicians and Hitler, but then they would also go and disrupt the meetings of other political parties. For example, the Social Democrats, or more importantly, the Communists. So, we see, by 1922, Hitler is in charge of his political party, the National Socialist Deutsche Arbeiter Party, NSDAP, Nazis for short. 1922, he is in charge. The only question left, what will he do now that he's in charge of the Nazi Party? What were his aims and ambitions? And for that, ladies and gentlemen, you'll need to watch the next video as we move into 1923, a key year for Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. What happened? Have a look at the next video. So there we see the early Nazi Party, the development, the rise of Hitler as the leader of that party, 1920 to 1922. Hitler's now ready. What will happen next? As ever, I hope it's been useful. I'll see you soon with the next video. All the best now.